Hey there, everyone. Welcome. It's Lotus, Art of Sacred Embodiment. So today I want to start off with a little story, and this is going to be in alignment with the new path that we're going to be working with. Not new path, but the deepening of the path of the sacred feminine. And we're going to go deep into that and what this year has in store for both classes, content on YouTube, and private sessions, which also have now opened. And that's going to be Friday at 5:30 p.m., where it's called The Spiraling into the Sacred Feminine, where it's going to be a live stream. So you can actually go to my YouTube channel, head on down to upcoming live streams, and be notified for that if you'd like to join us. And of course, it will be posted onto my channel afterwards. So we're going to start with this story that took place in 1998, I believe it was. And this was at a point when I was a part of a conscious community outside of Eugene, Oregon. It was a fairly unorthodox community. It was a permaculture conscious community, but within that they had a course that was done every month for new students to come in, and then students who had already been through could continue on and assist. And this was also really intrinsic in the community's way of healthy relationships, right? Working with attachments, triggers, like your shadow, clear, honest, authentic communication, allowing space for people to express as they needed, as long as it was done, constructively, having a community around people to be able to support what was often kind of a controlled chaos environment. That's what it would feel like, I guess, if it were all very new. It was a very organic container of the sacred feminine. And the story talks about at the end of one of our circles after one of the sessions, there was a question going around, did anybody have anything else that they needed to share, anything they needed from the community, anything they needed from any specific person, and that was the time to ask to have those needs met. So one of the students, I was there probably for, I don't know, maybe halfway through the year as an assistant, and so she was coming through for the first time, I believe, and she said that what she really, really felt like she needed was to be held. And her desire, her need was to be held by the whole community, physically held. So to support her in this, I think there were probably at least a dozen of us circling at this time. Everybody got, as close as possible, and I don't remember if there was any material or anything that allowed everybody's hands to come together and literally pick her up and carry and rock her. And in this process, she began to release, she began to cry, she began to go through her internal process of working with her trauma that then enabled her, right, to gain deeper levels of healing. The job of those of us around were simply to hold that space. We weren't there to fix it. We weren't there to make it okay. We weren't even there necessarily to soothe. A lot of what we worked with in this community was really recognizing that there are times where we give support and times where we just hold space as support and allow the being, the human beings that we are, to know our deep resilience and to know that we have sovereignty to experience exactly what we need, and we don't have to necessarily be rescued from it or saved from our pain. Instead, everyone held, rocked, and allowed her to go through her process of release for as long as it took. I don't remember how long it took. I do remember it taking a while. Simply because I had my own stuff coming up, because she had asked for a need to be met in a way that triggered how deeply at that point, I would never be able to ask for that, and I would never be able to receive it. So I had all sorts of my own internal process happening as I was witnessing my own response, reactions, sometimes judgment, sometimes envy, sometimes longing, deep vulnerability and fear, right? So when, at whatever point it was, everyone laid her down on the floor and created a puppy pile around her. So if you're not familiar with, cuddle puddles, puppy piles, puppy puddles, they are, they're deep, intimate, physical connection where it's completely non-sexual, and that is not actually allowed. It is simply where everybody can bring their energy and feel safe and secure in close connection and deep physical and emotional intimacy. So everybody puddled around her and just held, holding hands, arms around, whatever that was, and I'm sure we all had our arms around each other as well, to ground this process. And then when she was complete, she let everyone know that she was complete, and, any sharing that wanted to go on from her for anybody else was able to take place. And she still had the, what would I say, the stone was in her hand where she could ask. If she wanted reflection, she could ask for it. If she didn't want reflection, she wasn't going to ask for it. And nobody, right? It was not anybody else's place to give their thoughts, opinions, feedback, anything like that. So this was a really beautiful example of what I want to talk about today. This is very much in the wheelhouse of the sacred feminine. And the sacred feminine has many different archetypes. And I would sort of put this in the archetype of a deep mother energy. That deep mother frequency of the feminine that we all came together and were able to deeply hold her. And the deep holding is something that I believe most of us have never really received. And we can take this back generationally. The minute that if you haven't had a home birth, with which most haven't, then as soon as we're born, the majority of us are taken away from the mother. We're immediately in separation. We go through, whatever happens to that infant, in the medical, modalities, the allopathic modalities, and then eventually we're brought back to the mother. And as most of you are going to know, in home births, as soon as that birth happens, that baby is put skin to skin onto the mother's belly and heart. The umbilical cord is not cut. There's no separation that happens. And for however long that is, which begins to allow this initial imprint of deep holding, safety, security. You are connected, right, with the mother. Usually, even if you have a home birth, simply because as humans, we don't have a history of knowing what it is to experience deep holding. Therefore, we cannot actually offer deep holding. So what we have today is the amazing, right, just blossoming of trauma healing in our culture that has been needed for thousands of years, let's say. However, we also needed to go through all of the wounding phases and stages before the masses could be readied to begin to take a look at their deeper pain and suffering and separation from self, separation from other, separation from life. Okay, the consciousness, the wisdom, the sacredness and divinity of life that are in higher orders than what we have known thus far. Excuse me. I'm still sick. So there are many beautiful modalities and practitioners, and I have beautiful friends who work with this, who work with holding the space, holding and touch that allows the deep holding experience of a client. And I began working with that again unorthodoxically myself, as I was guided by the sacred feminine, by the divine mother that was my teacher, for up close and personal for the first decade of my awakening. So starting in about 2003 is when I began doing this work, and I would be intuitively guided to know how to hold people and how to allow their emotional release through trauma, through gentle holdings and touch. So now this has become much more mainstream, and there are certifications which are amazing. And so as the nervous system regulates, right, because that root of trauma is oftentimes held in the nervous system, and it's on time loops. So we're going to talk a little bit about this on Friday. We're going to talk about quantum time and quantum memory and how this is all stored in our body, and particularly in our nervous system. And when we can start to look at our healing process from a quantum prism, we get a much greater view, and we get and actually even more efficient and effective momentum into regulation. So I'm suggesting, so what I'm going to suggest here is there is the beautiful practitioner and client relationship that is this first layer of deep holding. And then there is the deep holding that comes from our own essence, our own depth of wisdom, our own inner feminine. And this depth of holding is different than what we would find, in those early stages, let's say. And there are requirements for them. Part of the requirement is an initiatory phase with the sacred feminine, with that deep mothering essence. And I had asked, I've been asking a couple clients recently, how long does it take you after your system has maybe been activated, right? After your nervous system, after you don't have to be activated in trauma, but just even activated in being overstimulated in your life, in your brain, in your energy body, discordant, or disconnected from your own embodiment. How long does it take you to become not just regulated, so that you are functional, right? Functional, you're balanced, you've got that. It's like, okay, good, I rested, maybe I did some meditation, yoga, maybe I, even took a couple naps. All of those are perfect. And then I feel refreshed, I feel revived, and I feel like I can then move out again. So that's working with a functional level. What I'm referring to is there is a deeper level that is where everything gets turned on from the aliveness of your own life force, from the embodiment process of your own wisdom. And I know for me that if I have been activated, it takes me 3 days to drop into this state of resting into the divine and sacred feminine. Meaning, everything opens, harmonizes, immune system boosts. You could say it's kind of similar to a yoga nidra state, only it's longer, it's deeper, and it's more fortified. So when we're stepping onto the path of the sacred feminine, there are stages and phases that when we move into deeper, more expanded stages and phases, what happens is we get to access, we get the grace and the blessing, so to speak, of the next levels, stages, and phases that then align us with an even higher expression and experience that is that is rapidly healing and reorganizing, not just regulating, reorganizing on every level of our being. Now, I'm not going to go into exactly what that looks like, but what I will say is it's challenging for everybody in the beginning because it requires a whole new experience of what it feels and how it feels to enter into deeper levels of stillness, of silence, of presence, of inner listening, and of letting go. And once this practice has been, has been, I don't know, I can't think of the word. My brain is a little foggy. Let's just say once we've become acclimated to this practice, then we become aware of the depths of our own being that we have never met. And when it comes to holding, when it comes to deep holding, what we then are offered on like this beautiful silver platter is how to hold ourselves. How to learn how to deeply be held by our own innate sacredness and divinity. These are not our human self-consciousness. They're beyond that. It's taking us back to the source. And when we tap into that holding, we don't have to feel the fear of deep abandonment again, of disconnection, of deep loneliness, of being, alone, and feeling, because we experience the loneliness, the abandonment, rejection, whatever this is. These are things that keep us tethered to only having these needs met outside of ourselves. And I'm not saying at all that we don't want those. We want that deep closeness with loved ones. We want to feel held, and we want to deeply hold. But in order to do that, we also have to be receptive to deep holding. And as I said earlier, for me, it was clear I was not able. I had too many walls up. Even though I had come quite a long way within this group, and had massive heart openings and deeper levels of faith and trust in myself, which allowed me to have faith and trust in my community around me, and then just in life in general. But there are layers of experience that if we've never had it, and if we live in a world where we don't feel safe to let go and let our guards down, we won't ever really be able to receive it, and we won't genuinely, unconditionally be able to give it. So I'm gonna like hang out in this closing area. So the invitation as we move forward, and definitely, on Friday, not going to go into this again, right? I want to share little pockets because we're not going to go into many of the details of the methods that we're going to be using going forward this year. But I want to give enough of a context of why are these things valuable? Why is it valuable to come home to ourselves? You know, why is it valuable to learn how to hold ourselves, right? The thing is, a lot of what this is doesn't sound very sexy. You know, it's not super sexy. It's not fun, right? Well, it depends on your version of fun. It's not super exciting in the normal excitement way. You know, it's not like our nervous system doesn't get to raise up with woohoo, you know, where we feel just like really happy and we're activated. Instead, this is an activation of deep peace, of deep joy, of deep compassion, and deep safety. When we have this, everything else changes. The ways in which we need what we need change, or the experiences that we have had that kind of haunt us because we're on, right, a loop of reactivation because we have to wait for people, places, situations to be there for us, which is of value. But we're talking about self-sourcing and deep resilience, which brings us to the divine qualities of our sovereignty. Can you imagine knowing that, yes, I want my partner to be able to be there and vice versa, and know, right, that I can get that deep emotional, physical, psychic holding. And this can be something that we share together. But if they're not available for whatever reason, I know how to deepen, not even a healing process anymore, but to deepen my wholeness process. And if we think that we have bottomed out on what our wholeness is, we're very mistaken. Very mistaken. There are layers and levels that are ripple effects out into the quantum of what our wholeness is and the qualities and the frequencies of consciousness that those are bestowed upon us through the initiations of the feminine. And that is what is going to mushroom out our healing journeys and capacities over these next years. It's imperative that we come home to ourselves. And, you know, I'm kind of like trying to find ways to how to, you know, how to, you know, how to really put into words the deep love that our soul and our bigness and the divine has for us. And you know, how to convey that romance. How to convey that from within everything else It's a new world. It is literally a new reality. Like I said, the path of the sacred and divine feminine is not a concept. It is reality. It is layers and levels of realities that are embodied through these higher levels, deeper soul levels of consciousness that 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 transform us so that we can create this new world that's coming in. So I'm going to stop there. So I hope I see you on Friday evening. If not, then I hope you watch the replay. And if this is enticing to you, curious, reach out to me. You know, let's see. As I've said before, this is not a one-size-fits-all journey at all. And everybody's needs and where they're at and their divine blueprint is going to require very different things along this journey. So I'm super excited to be talking more about it on Friday and moving forward and all that good stuff. And so I wish you well. And if this resonates, then I would love it if you subscribe to my channel. That would be amazing. And I send you love. I send you blessings. Till next time.